Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is the Steven Hour, and we are back with another Batman 66 episode review. Today we'll be reviewing the first appearance, in the first two-parter, and sadly the only two-parter of the Bookworm, one of the villains created specifically for the show, and in my opinion, one of the best villains to ever appear in it. Now, let's get into the plot. Our episode begins with people at the, Gotham City bridge, as they are commemorating a new bridge. Mayor Linseed is there, making his second appearance, appearing in the way back in a Joker episode, where he will be commemorating this bridge, and also Commissioner Gordon is there. Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson are at Wayne Manor with Dick watching the telly, and when he's watching, he notices that the Bookworm is there. And of course he tells Bruce that Bookworm is there. And the thing is, Bookworm is a villain that is yet up to be set up as another villain created specifically for the show, but also as a villain that Batman and Robin have encountered before in the past. Or Batman has encountered before in the past. I'll get to more of that later in the video. Anyway, as they are watching the proceedings, Bookworm secretly goes away to hide and secretly calls one of his men through his glasses that he's wearing and tells them to start their caper. And one of the henchmen has a rifle, fires it at Gordon, and he falls off the bridge to his death. Yeah, so we started the episode with a bang, alright. With Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson essentially seeing the footage, they immediately realize that they do not need to wait for the Batfilm, but are gonna rush there immediately. They then bump into Anne Herod, who has also seen the proceedings, and, ask her, where's I hope Batman and Robin are watching, because they're gonna need their help more than ever. Bruce and Dick essentially assures Anne Herod that Batman and Robin will be there, no doubt, and they're going to go and pay their respects to a great man. And as they head to the study, Bruce Wayne opens up the Shakespeare's head and essentially says that this crime will not go unavenged, showing just how much love and respect he's always had for Gordon. They then go down the Batpoles, the opening credits begin. Batman and Robin then rush out of the Batcave in the Batmobile all the way to Police HQ, where they then see on TV that it definitely was the Bookworm from a previous footage. Just as all the cops are in disbelief, Chief O'Hara is furious and angry. However, Batman tells him that they have no proof he actually did it. Just because he was there doesn't mean he did it. Next thing you know, Gordon comes through the door and is clearly angry at the day he's had and tells everyone to get back to their departments immediately. Everyone is shocked. Batman then says, "You weren't at the bridge this morning?" He says no, as he was given a ticket from a policeman when he left his luncheon for overtime parking. They then asked to see the ticket, and it's revealed that, the ticket was signed by an officer, badge 1887, A.S. Scarlet. But Chief O'Hara points out, wait a minute, there is no badge 1887 on the force, and Batman says, well, of course not, and A.S. Scarlet stands for A Study in Scarlet, a Sherlock's Holmes novel. Realizing that this is clearly a typical Bookworm joke, and who better to have a police ticket than arguably one of the greatest detectives in literary history, Sherlock Holmes, they realize it has to be him. But Gordon's like, what's going on? They then revealed that they were here to investigate his murder that has happened this morning when someone who looked like Gordon was shot and fell off a bridge. And then they realized with that, then the person who gave them the ticket was clearly a phony. And clearly that this is all book related, it has to be Bookworm. Next thing you know, the Batmobile detects an explosives in the car, they then fire the ejector seat, and the bomb is saved at the last minute. Is prevented, but explosion still happens. A letter from the explosion is left, and Batman reads it, and it's a quote by Ernest Hemingway, and the quote is, "Do not ask for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee, a threat to both Batman and Robin." Now these next few scenes essentially help set up the Bookworm's character, but also Batman knowing more about the Bookworm. As they're in the Batcave trying to decipher it, Robin says, well, maybe this thing was put in the Batmobile because of the right size, but Batman says, no, I know Bookworm. Everything he does is very specific. Is very specifically done. And with that, I'd like to conclude that Batman has encountered Bookworm before. Robin just knows of him, but he's never met him. That's at least how I like to view it at least. And they realize that the quote in the thing, the mission of the hero was to blow up a bridge. Because of the quote, the book, they realize that, they then head there. We then cut to Bookworm at his, hideout with his 3 men, Devil's, Princess Devil, as his really main henchman, and of course the female Miss Limpert, who is essentially, I will admit, for the next 2-parter, she's essentially a woman who has more looks than brains. Let's be honest. She can be smart as time, but not that smart. We also find out more about Bookworm. Even though he's this literature obsessed man, he can quote, he can read. She asked the stupid question, why don't you write books of your own? And he goes into a fit of rage. What was this nice man goes into this absolute psychopath mode, where he's essentially finding out that he used to be an author, but his books never got published because essentially, when he tried to create his own books, he had no originality. All he could do is copy from stolen plots. And he's almost about to hit her, but then he grabs his book about self-control, he reads it literally in under a few seconds, and next thing you know, his personality is back to being calm and collective. So they realize that Batman will be heading to their trap, heading to no doubt their trap, but will figure out the clue, and quickly get there to place the trap. Just as Batman's getting there, they get a call from Gordon saying that they've got an anonymous tip about a nearby place, about something about blowing up a bridge. Realizing that, they head their way there, in which they go to the place and they see not just a truck, but they also see on the wall a big project, the screen of a picture of a bridge, from a projector. And Batman says he's blown up a bridge. He's blown it up in this big size. In other words, a play on words, not what it literally means. They then climb up the wall to look further down below to get a better view of the area, in which we get a window cameo, which I'll explain later in the video. They then see the truck, make their way down, turn on this supersonic loudness, which essentially has the Bookworm and all his men jump out and run away. Batman and Robin follow, and Bookworm then orders his men to fight him. But before it could happen, Batman tells them to halt and take off their glasses. Of course, if you're Bookworm, you're obsessed with books, you have to have reading glasses, and of course the henchmen have to wear reading glasses. And Batman says, remember, never hit a man with glasses. Next thing you know, a fight breaks out. And the Bookworm, of course, stands by and just watches. Bookworm is one of those few villains that really doesn't fight with his men. In fact, in Season 1, the Bookworm, King Tut, and Mr. Freeze, Catwoman, and Zelda the Great really have their henchmen do the work while they stay more in the background. Just an observation, and I've just noticed. Eventually, Bookworm and 3 of his men make their escape, but Batman is stumbled as to why this whole thing is going on. They then make their way back to the truck, where they see the woman tied up. Batman realizes that she must be a member of the gang, because the damsel in distress hostage could be false. To realize that, they then knock her out with bat gas, take her back to the Batcave, and do a sort of interrogation, with her still asleep and unconscious. Finding out she is a member of Bookworm's gang, but they don't know what his plot is, only that they can't proceed it unless Batman and Robin have been killed, or out of the way. Realizing that, they then realize the only next plan is to play into Bookworm's, trap. So they bring her back and have the whole charade of her, being untied, and, explain the whole, have her essentially try to lead Batman and Robin to a trap. What happens is, Batman goes, but leaves Robin to guard her. And then, of course, she says she would like to read a book, and could she please have that book and read it to her. And when Robin takes and opens it, knockout gas comes out. The woman then calls up Bookworm, says that Batman must know that they're onto him, because Robin said her name, and she has not yet revealed her name yet. Realizing that Robin's there, but Batman will probably suspect something, the plan then, takes an unusual turn. They kidnap Robin and tie him inside the bell, and at the stroke of 12, essentially Robin would have himself killed. And I just love the scene. Just as Bookworm and his men are about to leave, the Bookworm says, "Do not ask for whom this bell tolls. It tolls for thee." And they just walk away. And that's our cliffhanger. How's Robin going to get out of this? He's all tied up. Batman doesn't know he's in a trap yet. And of course, we'll find out how they get out of it in the next episode. The cast here, we have some interesting dynamics. Now, Aunt Harriet being this upsetness really just shows us just how much, in many ways, she has a closeness to Gordon just has a close that she's not just aware of Gordon, but also hints at a general friendship there. And how Batman and Robin are shocked at his supposed death, the same as Bruce Wayne and Dick, how they are shocked. And you could just tell not just how much they have respect for Gordon, how much they admire him, but that the fact that Batman says that this death will not go unavenged, just showing just how much, loyalty the two have for Gordon. Also, Chief O'Hara here, how he's almost broken down in tears. And of course, when Gordon comes out and finding out that all this has happened, he is shocked. But I'm sure deep down he would have been, happy that with his death that these guys would have not stopped till the end of the earth to get his killer, just as I'm sure that he would have done with Batman and Robin's death. Of course, I will have to point out the silliness, though, of how Gordon could not have known that the number was given to him. If he was to have known every badge on the force, he should have known that badge 18810 was not on the force. Chief O'Hara pointed that out. But then again, they are a little bit incompetent sometimes, but not fully. But, you have to question it. Alpha really doesn't appear that much in this episode. But of course, the main star is the Bookworm. For me, Bookworm by Roddy McDowall is one of the greatest villains for the show. And for me, it is absolutely criminal that he never appeared again. This two-parter was really his only episodes. Now, for season 1, a lot of the villains that were introduced would appear in the next season. The Riddler, though almost at the last minute, the Penguin, Joker, Catwoman, Mr. Freeze, the Mad Hatter, and King Tut all made an appearance in season 2. But Falseface, Zelda the Great, and the Bookworm sadly never did. But Zelda the Great made sense. She was a one-shot. And for me, it's upset that Falseface never did, though when you find out why, with background, that made sense. But for me, this is a genuine character. First off, the design of him is I must say, pretty cool for 66. That lamp in his head and the radio glasses, the costume is absolutely great, and we actually got a genuine character study with this guy. We genuinely get to understand his psyche. He used to be a novelist, an author, and he used to love reading books. He tried to create his own books, to be bestsellers, but the problem was because he could devour books, he couldn't come up with originality of his own and just kept copying off others. As a result, this frustrated passion became an obsession and led him to villainy. However, we are picking up from clearly, Batman has encountered him before, so we don't know the full story of how he became a villain, but this makes him rather sympathetic. And how he goes from mood swings to being this calm, collected guy to this almost villainous psychopath who was almost willing to cause physical harm to a woman, and can't take it, this is 66, is something. And the name the Bookworm, it sounds silly, but then again, which Batman villain has never sounded silly? The Joker, the Penguin, Riddler, Catwoman, they all have a silly quality. But for me, this is such a genuine character, and for me, should definitely be adapted to modern Batman comics. And here we also have the first ever window cameo. Here, Jerry Lewis. In that scene with Batman and Robin climbing up the window to try and look down below, and the guy pops out? Jerry Lee Lewis is, from my knowledge, a very well-known actor who has definitely made several appearances in movies and TVs during his career. And he plays this silly, goofable guy in the window, and this was done because so many celebrities wanted to be on this show. This was a really huge phenomenon. And as a result, most of the villains were played by big celebrities, at least in TV or movies. And not all of them could be fit on the show. So they came up with the window cameo, and this would give a chance for huge celebrities to make an appearance. Now I always thought that the first ever window cameo only happened in the movie, and would become a huge thing of season 2, but to my knowledge, this was the first time, however, this is the first time it happened, a proper window cameo. And even though it was such a short scene, it left a huge impact on the show, as season 2 would forever do a window cameo in nearly the majority of season 2, and this is the first, and it's really great. The Bookworm turns, for me, started off really well. First off, it's very captivating from the get-go. We're introduced to a very unique and sympathetic villain, and for me, one of the best the show ever did. And the fact that we still don't know his criminal ploy, but the whole episode is for him, essentially, we get to know more about this character, which we should do for many villains, to really understand what motivates them. Excuse me. But we should also understand that this character is an obsessed novelist, and for me, Roddy McDowall absolutely nails it. And for me, so far, this episode has started off really strong, very strong. So the question is, how's the second part gonna do? Because sometimes the first parts are great and the second parts aren't. Very few are great in both aspects. Very good can flow great, and we still haven't figured out the plot yet. And how's Robin going to get out of his death trap? We'll find out. And that's it, the Bookworm turns. A really great episode. It's overall very different, and does things very differently. And we're introduced to me one of the most greatest villains of the show, and sadly should have absolutely have made a return. And an interesting fact, Roddy McDowall. If this name sounds familiar, well, first off, he appeared in the Planet of the Apes films back when they first started doing them, but he also voiced the Mad Hatter in the Batman the Animated Series. Anywho, tune in next time for While Gotham City Burns, the part 2 to this one. So tune in for then at the same Steven hour, same Steven time, same Steven channel. So long for now.